Hello, everybody. So today I want to talk about e.l.f. beauty. E.l.f. beauty, eyes, lips, face is what it stands for. It's obviously a makeup company, so a field that I'm not as familiar with, but I like to think I can analyze a business, and I know when I see a good one. And to me, this is looking like a good one. No financial advice. So my first slide here is it the Tesla of cosmetics? And that's going to kind of make sense. First of all, this is from the Piper Sandler survey about 13,000 teenagers. Whatever favorite brand, their favorite cosmetic brand is e.l.f. Cosmetics. This is their unaided awareness. What is unaided awareness? Is you would ask someone, tell me a makeup brand. And out of the people, when you ask a makeup brand, 33% say e.l.f. And you can see you get close to brands that are very old. You get close to L'Oreal. You get close to Maybelline. Maybelline is the best in unaided awareness in the US as far as brands go. e.l.f. is almost getting into the top three. To me, if you look at the trends, because they were at 20% a few years back, if you look at the trends, only a matter of years until they outdo L'Oreal as far as unaided brand awareness. So kind of like a Tesla here too. And then when you look at the share growth, this is fascinating. In a category that is declining, that has had some problems with sales, with Estee Lauder, Ulta. If you look at these stocks, they haven't been doing too well because of the economics. The one brand that is still growing despite the other brands not doing well at all, well, that is e.l.f. They're gaining market share. Kind of sounds like a Tesla, right? The only car company whose sales are up right now is Tesla. Everybody else is going down. So that's why I say the Tesla of cosmetics. That sounds weird maybe, but that's just kind of my analogy when I thought about the market share. And of course, their market share is growing, and that's what they care about. They are now the number 2 market share in the US with 12.3% market share. And their share at Target was their first in-store, big store. I'm going to call it a big box store. Their first big box store retailer was Target. They're 21%. And it's true, I went to Target the other day, and when you enter Target, all you see is the shiny, well-lit Ulta stand, and you see the makeup, and it is inexpensive, and they are growing their sales that way. A lot of Gen Z actually like to shop at Target for some reason. Anyways, now I want to move on to telling you whether it's a high-quality product or not. And I've watched a few interviews of the CEO, and the CEO claims that the quality is similar to very expensive products. The quality is supposed to be similar to prestige products, as they call them. And so the question is, well, how am I going to be able to assess that, right? It's kind of tough. By the way, they are in 18 different segments. So makeup is kind of a complicated business where you want to be in as many segments as possible. These are all of the different types of makeups that you could need. I don't think it's important to be an expert in that, but I think we can use a case study, and the case study that I'm going to use is lip oil. So it's just a random product that they have. It's pictured, right? I think it's this one. Yeah, I think it's this. No, it's this one. There you go. The one at $8. It's this one. So lip oil. So I don't really need to know how it differs from lipstick. I just need to read the reviews. And so when I see, yes, they are $1 cheaper than NYX, right? So they are $1 cheaper, and they are much cheaper than old world brands. Well, I don't really know if that's an old world brand. They're much cheaper than that. Anyways, my point is you see reviews, right? And this is, by the way, one of the leading sites to sell cosmetics. It's Ulta Beauty. You see the reviews. The reviews are not as high on the other products than they are on the e.l.f. one. And then I took the liberty of zooming, so you can zoom again and look at the product. So they claim prestige for lip oil would be $40. What I found is when you scroll down on the website, Clinique would be $27. And I suppose that would be a prestige brand. But, the review is 4.5, right? There's a lot of products that are 4.5. Are they all 4.5 though? No, they're not. So when you dig a little deeper, you can see that this is their product. When you click their product, you can see it's a 4.7 star out of 5, 4.7, and they have 3,357 reviews on this particular website. Now, when I look the closest, I even tried to copy the color. So you see, I'm doing some research here. I even tried to copy the color. So this is the closest product I could find from L'Oreal. So not only is it $3 cheaper, but it is not as well rated, right? It's 4.6, but again, the number of reviews is only 600 reviews versus 3,000 reviews for e.l.f. So you can take that review more to the bank than this one, if that makes some sense. And you be the judge about the design and whether one design looks better than the other and more youthful than the other. I happen to believe that L'Oreal's design looks perhaps more timeless, perhaps more, it doesn't have a trend, it's more like a timeless design. This, and I know this from looking at sales sheets and stuff, this is, trying to put on my Gen Z goggles, this is trendy, right? This is a color, this is shiny. I think this is much more trendy than this, but I'm not sure, right? I am no expert. What I can say is that A, it's cheaper, and B, it's better rated than L'Oreal on a random product, or the closest product I could find. So anyways, let me move on. And we're going to have that assumption, right, going forward, that it's prestige quality and at an accessible point. I'm going to believe them on that one, because their sales don't lie, and you'll see the sales are good. So before I go to the sales, let me talk about kind of brands and how they work, right? Why is L'Oreal a brand? L'Oreal is a brand because it was the big company of the 1900s, and they were able to advertise. They were able to buy these expensive spots, expensive distribution deals, and thus they became a brand. e.l.f. is a brand that was founded in 2004, and so they have used online marketing to establish themselves as a brand. They've used social media to establish themselves as a brand. Barriers to entry are very low with brands nowadays. Anybody can launch a brand nowadays, and the question is it going to be picked up by the crowd? Is the crowd going to be picked up and picking up your brand? So that wasn't the case back then. Back then, you needed TV advertising to create your brand. Today, it's a capitalistic marketplace of brands competing, and this is why I say it's important to look at their online marketing, their strong online presence, and they do have a strong online presence. First of all, their sales are growing at quite a high clip when it comes to selling online. It grew 40% year over year if you look at a quarter over quarter. They sell 21% of their products online. They still sell a lot in retail establishments. They have a powerful loyalty program with 5 million members, and they are on so many different social medias. These are all of the social medias that they're on. Feel free to look at their pages. They are very popular. They are also on Roblox, and I thought this was very clever because Roblox is you're really recruiting the Generation Alpha consumer on Roblox. And when I look at CEO interviews, it's noteworthy. Who do they sell to? They sell to younger millennials, all of Gen Z, and Generation Alpha, who is just starting to buy makeup. And this is quite interesting for Roblox. So the way it works is if you buy a product in real life, you can get a Roblox digital good or digital item. And before we think it's anecdotal, it is actually not anecdotal. I was looking at the number, I could not believe it. 213,000 likes. And so if you do the ratio of I don't know, say only 5% of users click the button like, for example, you can extrapolate how many users there are for this game in the US, for example. And so I think it's very, very clever to go recruit the consumer earlier on before their own tastes are developed, and tastes in matter of makeup are probably just as strong as people's tastes in the matter of, I don't know, energy drinks, for example. They have a strong retail presence, and of course, if you know my channel, you know that I typically run away whenever I hear about retail presence, and it's not my favorite. And it's not my favorite because, of course, you have to share a cut, and you see it's a cheap product, and you have to share a cut of that product with those physical retailers. And the other company that I own, I actually just bought a little bit of e.l.f. I'm starting a position. The other company that I own, which is RDT, which is a brand Il Maquillage, they sell mostly online, and they're able to undercut the retailer, but they do it with AI. And the problem is color. And this is something that I think one has to understand with makeup, is that the color that you see online is never going to be the same as the color that you see in the store. And most people, when they buy these products, they want to be able to test it out. They want to be able to see the color, see it matches their skin, see it is what is looking for, if it is what it is, what that they are looking for or not. So the point I'm trying to say is that you probably still need a physical store for now. I wouldn't be surprised to see even makeup go the way of entirely seeing online, but I understand why you still sell it online, because computer screens are not as good as rendering color, and a lot of people don't want to take the risk of having to order 3 or 4 different shades to find the right color for them. So that's why I think they're doing well in person. Some of it may also be an impulse buy, of course. It's noteworthy to say that they are going through quite a bit of an international expansion. They are barely international right now, but their international business is growing almost at 100% clip. And this is an example of stores that they're entering. So they're entering kind of your department stores or your beauty stores in other countries, right? I think it's Kohl's. I don't know these brands, of course, but Australia is a big market. But I'm especially happy about Germany. Germany is an even bigger market. I am confused. I really thought they were already distributing in Mexico. I guess they're adding Sephora in Mexico. Mexico is of course a very big market too, but I think Germany and the European market is quite interesting. They're all interesting. They're expanding internationally. These are companies, by the way, because makeup is used in every single country in the world. These are companies, they are going to get to 120 countries at the end of the day, right? If you're L'Oreal, you operate in 128 countries or something like that. These companies are going to sell everywhere at the end of the day. 3 big markets right there that they're entering. And of course, they entered the UK, they entered the Netherlands, they're in a bunch of European countries already. Now, let's talk about their growth numbers. Over the past 5 years, their sales have grown by 25%. Think about it, by 27%. They've grown by 27% compounded annual growth rate for 5 years. So we're getting close to my 30% that I look for usually in a stock. And their EBITDA also has been growing quite fast. It depends on how you want to picture it, how you want to see it. People like to see S-curves. I like to see S-curves. This is how they show their growth in their investor presentation. This is how macrotrends.com, if you go on that website, they'll show the growth. This is how they show the growth. You can see the growth is pretty pristine to me. They are gaining market share. And when I look at shares outstanding, I know many of you like to see not a lot of dilution. You'll be pleased to see that the dilution, in my view, when it comes to e.l.f., it's been very mild ever since they IPO'd in 2016. You can see where we're slightly above 0.05. Right, that's in millions, of course. We're slightly above that in terms of the number of shares, but to me, it's very reasonable dilution here when it comes to e.l.f. Now, the stock, since IPO, it was 324%, but note, compared to a few months ago, the stock was up 731%. So that tells you that there's been a drop recently through the industry, through the sector. Fell in sympathy is the term. I think they fell in sympathy, but not through the doing of e.l.f. Their EBITDA is exhibiting quite a bit of operating leverage. They've flipped from negative to positive EBITDA about 4 years back, and now they are well into the positive EBITDA territory. And I want to show you the performance. So the performance after the drop of more than 54% in something like 3 or 4 months, it dropped 50% in the past quarter, essentially. With that drop, the return still beats the triple Q, the Nasdaq, at almost 19% average annual total return. But if you go to the peak, the return was 32%. And of course, That's very special. When you get a company that returns annual total return at more than 30%, now you get a special company. You have a special company, twice the Nasdaq, and that's impressive. Not quite, but almost twice the Nasdaq. You get what I mean. What else do I really like about this Gen Z brand of e.l.f? Well, first of all, you may be pleased to hear that they've been able to navigate tariffs on China. They've had 25% tariff on their imported makeup from China since 2019, and they've been able to handle these tariffs through a whole bunch of supplier concessions, through growing the volumes, through creative manufacturing by their partners of these products, and they are working with their partners to try to get the partners to move away from China in other parts of Asia, like Southeast Asia, for example, in order to avoid the tariffs. But this is, when you're going to hear about the election, this is a stock that some people will be quick to dismiss, and they'll say, oh, what if they raise the tariffs on China good? Well, keep in mind, the company is still very inexpensive as far as pricing goes, so they can raise the price on the consumer if they were to raise the tariffs even more. But more importantly, they are shifting away from manufacturing in China to not be subject to these tariffs anymore. Under 80% right now is made in China, and they're working on lowering that. And I believe eventually these manufacturing lines, like all manufacturing lines, will be automated. And that's when they will win. And this is where I want to talk about productivity. The key when you use a supplier is it's going to help you with your productivity, and you're going to have only super productive employees, only employees that work in sales, work in marketing, work in IT, on your websites, etc. And you're not going to have employees who actually work in the manufacturing of the product. They outsource that to Chinese suppliers, and eventually they will outsource that, in my view, to automation. So let's compare it to L'Oreal, as I have. 6 billion in sales they've had, and they are 475 employees. So the productivity is $12.7 million of productivity per employee. It is mind-boggling. It's a huge productivity amount. This is higher than Airbnb, actually. I follow productivity pretty closely. I calculate it for my companies. It's higher than Airbnb. And I've rarely seen productivity that high. L'Oreal, on the other hand, okay, they're the behemoth, right? They're the number one or number three or number two, depending on where you look at and what products you look at. They're the behemoth. L'Oreal has, let's round it up to 46 billion in total sales, so a much bigger company, 46 billion, right? But how many employees do they have? They have I'm going to round it up to 95,000 employees. They have 95,000 employees. Your productivity per employee at L'Oreal is 484,000 per employee of productivity versus 12 million of employees per productivity. This is why, and the CEO highlights that in his interview of e.l.f., this is why a lot of the people who work at e.l.f. have been treated very well with share compensation, with good salaries. You're able to treat your employees extremely well when each employee is quote-unquote responsible for $12.7 million in sales. That's outstanding, and that's the difference between a 21st century company like e.l.f., which was founded in 2004, so well into the start of internet culture and efficiency culture. 2004, the year of the book Blue Ocean Strategy, right? The predecessor to 0 to 1. That was published in 2005, I believe, right? That was post-Amazon. Lean companies. This was a company that was founded after all of these concepts became popular in business, compared to a behemoth, a bloated company from the 20th century. I'm not singling out L'Oreal. I'm just saying randomly L'Oreal. There's other big companies that were very old. We saw Maybelline. I'm sure Maybelline also has tons of employees compared to how much they sell. And they were founded in the 1900s. And that is why you have this awful productivity. One company is agile. Today, one company benefits from China. Later, that company will benefit from automation. And think about the speed of automation too, which is so important in makeup. I can't imagine how important it is to go fast when trends go super fast. I went on that website. Now they're selling makeup for Halloween, right? If you have a fully automated line, can you make a Halloween-themed makeup really quickly and respond to the demand super quick? Yeah, you can probably do that. You can't do that if you're a big company, a bloated company who is 24% less productive, 24%, 24 times, sorry, I wish it was 24% for them, 24 times less productive. Also, the icing on the cake, if you're L'Oreal, is you have unions, and I happen to be French still, and I can tell you the unions in France, they are powerful. They are powerful. This union right there has 80,000 employees of L'Oreal. Think about that. I mean, that is what they claim. You working at the union. So that is crazy. I think that claim is exaggerated, and that's another one. So you can see that other one is billions for shareholders, nothing, almost nothing for the salaried persons, right? So these unions, when a company like L'Oreal is going to want to change, let's say they want to move the manufacturing away from France, and surely they have all of these tens of thousands of employees in France, surely a lot of manufacturing happens there. If they want to move away from there, what do you think? Do you think that's going to be easy to modify the structural inertia? Right? Look up when GM started to do that when GM in 2018, when the CEO of GM wanted to do that. She had a really, really hard time. These companies need to be agile. I don't know how the competition is going to fare, and I happen to believe that what we see here, the loss of market share, look at Revlon. That's brutal. Right? I mean, L'Oreal is bad too. Maybelline seems to be holding up the best. Look at the increase in market share of the agile company versus the drop of market share of the legacy company. 114 years old for L'Oreal, 109 years old for Maybelline. They drop against the more agile company, right? A little bit like Tesla against legacy auto. I stand by this comparison. I think it's a fairly interesting comparison. So, anyways, so that's my point here. I think the competitors are going to have a very hard time against the super lean e.l.f. company who's already on Roblox, giving digital goods to 14, 15-year-old who buy the makeup. They get a digital good that they can show their friends on Roblox. That's how agile that company is. And I want to point out, e.l.f. stock is down, right? And it is down more than 50% compared to 3 months ago. I think that's linked to Estee Lauder, which has had an insane fall if you look at their stock, and Ulta too hasn't been doing very well. I think this drop in the stock price is driven a lot by ETFs and a lot by the sector, and driven way less by the performance of this company. This company which actually recently upheld its guidance, and this company, e.l.f., on which analysts are even more bullish than e.l.f. itself, right? It's trendy to sandbag your predictions nowadays. So how does it fare on my spreadsheet? My spreadsheet on forward revenue growth next 12 months, I'm using the analyst's number. 39% revenue growth is what I'm using here. And so I get a stock valuation, enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth. How much am I paying for that growth? I get a 0.20. That's how cheap it is for a leading company in its sector. I get a rule of 40. I like that very much. Now, I also do know that in the last conference calls, they've guided for sales growth between 25 and 27%. So you probably know how these companies goes, and you can see they talk about a raised outlook. So the way they do it is they raise the outlook every quarter. Is the way they do it. That's how you can explain the delta between 27% predicted next 12 months by the top management team and 39% predicted by the analysts. Maybe they're going to do 35%, right? They don't really know how much they're going to do, but there's no upside to upholding a very high guidance, so they are being very prudent. Regardless, it's outstanding growth, and this stock is still cheap even if you take 26% forward revenue growth for e.l.f., 26% forward revenue growth for e.l.f. Then how much am I paying for that growth? Enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth. I'm paying a 0.3, so that would be top tier, and that would be the top 20% cheapest. I'm gonna call it top quarter cheapest. So either way, there's no different way to put it. This is a stock that was trading at 0.6 not too long ago. Now it's trading at a 0.3. The rule of 40 is achieved on this stock, even if you are negative, pessimistic about the growth. And I am not so sure their sales are gonna go down as much as some people fear, because they are the inexpensive makeup brand out of the prestige category, quote unquote. They are the inexpensive makeup brand, and they're also the makeup brand with a lot of newcomers, right? The new buyers of makeup are not people who have been buying L'Oreal for 50 years and know their brands and they keep buying L'Oreal and going back to L'Oreal. No, the new buyer of makeup is someone who's 15, 16, going to prom for the first time, and she has to pick makeup because she's going to wear a dress to prom. And she's probably going to go with the fancy brand of her generation. And the fancy brand of her generation is e.l.f., E.l.f. It's not necessarily L'Oreal. Or maybe she steals her mom's makeup because, I don't know, the economy's bad. I don't really know. But I don't think it's going to have that much of an impact. So I started my position in the stock. I'm really happy about that. I think this is going to be a good one. Thank you so much for watching. This was not investment advice, not financial advice, just entertainment on this channel. Please like, please subscribe, please follow me on X, follow me on Patreon. Thank you tons for watching. Have a wonderful day.